This is Lesson 110 in Saxon's 3rd edition Algebra 1 book. This lesson is on shifts and reflections on the x-axis of the coordinate grid. So here I've got some what we call parent functions, and those would be the ones that you have already been exposed to and have learned or are learning what those are, what they look like. So, for example, the parabola is when x is squared, and then this little squiggly backwards s sort of thing is when x is cubed. And then this, what I call the shooting star, is when x is the square root of, when it's the square root of x. And then the V shape is for absolute value of x. So, this is what we've been learning so far. So now we're going to talk about new functions and shifts and reflections. Okay, so we have the parabola, we have x squared, but we have x squared minus 1. So that's going to be moving over. Here's x squared, and so then here is x squared minus 1. It's moved over a little bit. The same thing with x cubed minus 1. Here's the standard. This would be x, on this one, this would be x squared plus 1, and this one would be x squared minus 1. And it actually shows it a little bit more clearly in your book. These graphs are sort of small, but if you'll look, here, this is, we went up 1 on the y, and here we went down, x squared minus 1. In this one, oh, I'm sorry, that's not what I wanted to do. In this one, we have plus 1 up here, and then we have minus 1 down here. And then on this, the same thing, plus 1, minus 1. It's your origination point is you're going to do what x, absolute value of x would be right here on the 0, 0, and going up, but here we're going up 1 and then starting, and here we're going down 1 from that point to negative 1. Okay, so this one is the absolute value of x plus 3. So that means we're going to shift it vertically 3 units. So 1, 2, 3, and we start there. All right, on this one, we have shifted on the x-axis. On this, we have shifted over. Here's the origination point, and this has shifted over plus 2 on the x. So you have you have this, flip it upside down because it's negative 2, and then you move the vertex 2 units to the right here, and then plus 2, you're going to move it upward. So this is a little bit more involved than what you're going to be getting into in your book, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you that these are the possible combinations. All right, in this one, we've gone, this would have been absolute value of x minus 4. All right, here we have some horizontal shifts. In the red here, I've illustrated what x minus 1 squared would be. And here in the green, what x plus 1 squared would be. Okay, so in your book on page 464, it explains to you why under the box of where the horizontal shifts of the graph of a function, if you'll read where it says, note that x plus 1 is the same as x minus negative 1. So therefore you're replacing x with x plus 1 is going to cause the graph of that to be shifted negative 1 horizontally. So the best way maybe to remember that is if it is minus 1, you're going to go to the right, which is not, it's like the opposite of what you normally think of, and x plus 1 would be shifted to the left, to the negative side. So this is probably one of the things that's going to be the hardest for you to remember because it's sort of counterintuitive to what you have learned about number lines. But just learn it as that's the way it is. Okay, so we were supposed to sketch the graph in example 2. It said sketch the graph of the square root of x minus 3. Well, because it's a square root, it's going to be the shooting star sort of thing. And because it's minus 3, we're going to shift 3 units to the right, positive 3, to start. All right, here are some examples that I found on the internet. The function of x plus 2, you see that it went to the left of 0. The function of x is just what you've normally been doing. And then x minus 2 comes over and moves to the right, to the positive side. So here we have another example of a shift, and here's another. The function of x is 3 in this one, so that would be here. The function of x is absolute value of x plus 2. Notice that it's shifted over to the left, to the negative 2, to begin to, that would be the vertex of the graph. All right, and then the last part of your, well, no, not the last part, the third part of your lesson is called reflection about the x-axis. And a reflection is like what you see in the mirror. It's kind of the opposite of. So if, for example, this were x squared, then we know that it would be a parabola with the ends going up. But because it's negative, we can say this is the opposite of that. So it is same thing but going down. Same thing here. This would normally be like this for x cubed. So we do it backwards for negative because it's the opposite. So in other words, if it were here and this is the reflection of it, or if it were here and this is its reflection. Same thing here. It would be here, but then this is the reflection of that. And this would be here, but this is its reflection. So it's the opposite of. And here's an example. So here, this would be an x squared, and this would be the negative x squared. It's just as simply, if you could flip it over, that's its reflection. Okay, and then for the final part of the lesson, it's combinations of shifts and reflections. So you can actually do both. You can shift up or down or horizontally, and you can have also a reflection where it's like flipped upside down. All right, and this is an example of that. So we've got absolute value of x. If it were just simply absolute value of x plus 3, then we would shift the vertex up to positive 3, and it would look something like this. This would be our vertex. However, this indicates the opposite of that, which means it's not going to only shift, but it's also going to be a reflection of. So we start here at this vertex and then flip it over. So that's when you have a combination. All right, let's work your practice problems. This says sketch the graph of the function of x squared plus 3. Okay, well, x squared is going to be a parabola shape, like the U. It's positive, so it is going to be going up, but it's going to shift up 3. So we're going to start at 3 on the y. So it's going to be this shape, but you're going to start here on the 3 on the y-axis. Okay, B says we're going to do x plus 3 squared. Alright, so because it is the plus 3, remember, we're going to do, it's still going to be a parabola shape because it's squared, but we're going to start over here at the negative 3 and go up, and so that's what that's going to look like. Alright, and then here we're also, it's squared, so we're also going to have that parabola shape, but it's going to be the opposite of. So because it's the opposite of, we're going to make our U go upside down. And that's what that will look like. Some of these you're just going to have to kind of memorize, look back, until you kind of get the hang of it. Okay, so this says, suppose that the function of x is the absolute value of x, and the function of x is the absolute value of x plus 3. So then which of the following statements would be true? Well, let's see. The graph of f is the graph of f shifted vertically 3 units up. Well, no. This is plus. The graph of f is the graph of f shifted horizontally 3 units to the right. That wouldn't be right either because that's in the positive realm. 3 says the graph of f is the graph of f shifted horizontally 3 units to the left. And 4 says shifted vertically 3 units down. Actually, number 3 is going to be correct for this statement. Absolute value of x plus 3 is going to be shifted horizontally to the negative 3 on the x-axis. Alright, this can be a little difficult to understand. Just keep your book marked at this lesson so that you can continue to look back at the different graphs, because it's a lot to cover in one lesson, and just keep referring back to it until you are more familiar with it. Good job. I'll see you back for lesson 111. Almost finished with the book, guys.